All right, the question is, if I had to buy one Fender Stratocaster currently on the market to play for the rest of my life, what would it be and why? Stick with me to the end because I'll tell you. Hey everybody, it's John here from Play and Trade Guitars, and you made a smart decision shopping for a Fender Strat. But with so many options on the market, it can be overwhelming. Don't worry, I'm gonna break down the best Strat options for every budget. I'll tell you what to look for when shopping for a Strat, and I'll give you my absolute favorites, so stick with me. If you are shopping for a Strat or any other gear, click to buy gear using the link pinned in the comments or down in the description. With my link, you're gonna get fast free shipping, easy payment plans, and you help me make these videos on Play and Trade Guitars, so thanks for doing that. If you're watching on TV, you can scan this QR code and shop using your smartphone. And one more thing, this Gibson Les Paul over my shoulder is going to one of you when we hit 100,000 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe now, turn on notifications, and sign up down below. All right, let's break down what to look for when shopping for your best Stratocaster options, and I'll break it all down by price as well. Let's get going. All right, for under $500, you cannot go wrong with Squier Classic Vibe. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't typically play a Stratocaster, but you must own one for your collection. If you want a really affordable way to do this, I'm telling you, the Classic Vibe is vintage inspired, 60s or 50s configuration. 60s will give you a laurel fretboard, kind of like a rosewood feel, while the 50s will give you this maple. And they did an excellent job giving you an affordable Strat that has all the correct vintage bells and whistles. Classic Strat trem, 3 single coil pickups, 5-way blade switch, volume tone, the classic works. If you like the look of that large headstock from the CBS era, 70s, you can get this natural finish on the Classic Vibe 70 Strat, which I think looks pretty cool. You can also dress that up in Olympic white. You're gonna see a theme here that for pretty much any of these guitars, it'll be the same guitar with choosing which fretboard material you want and then the pickup configuration. Here's the same Squier Classic Vibe 70s, but this time it's the HSS, meaning it has a humbucker in bridge position. I mentioned hardtail. If you don't want any tremolo at all, which can be especially valuable for somebody just starting out, or if you don't intend to use the tremolo ever, it helps with tuning stability and actually has a pretty cool resonant sound, kind of similar to a hybrid between a Telecaster and a Strat when you have a hardtail Strat. Here's a very easy rock and roll machine, the Squier Sonic Strat, hardtail, laurel fretboard, 209, super affordable with just a single humbucker. I think that's a really sharp option. A little more versatile here for a hardtail option at a great price, 209. Look at that beautiful Arctic white finish with 3 classic single coil pickups, hardtail through bridge design here. Now this is not a one and done necessarily Strat, but I keep coming back to this, it's so cool. Check out this Fender's take on kind of like a Gibson. It's got 2 P90 pickups and it's got a mahogany body. And this guitar was so much fun to play. It's got a laurel fretboard, fantastic guitar. I think is worth checking out at $398. Now at NAMM 2025, Fender introduced the Standard Series, and at $599, it's very affordable. Keep in mind these are made in Indonesia, and you can really kind of think of these as entry-level Fender Strats. It's almost like a Squier with Fender on the headstock. So if you want Fender on the headstock, good starter guitar, but I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you can spend a little bit more, it's a huge step up to skip the Standard Series and go with Player II. Here's the Player II Strat in birch green with a true rosewood fretboard. They recently redid the Player Series, and Player II is fantastic value. Very playable guitars, blend of vintage and modern appointments, a little more modern 2-point tremolo here. You can also get it in maple. I love this black pickguard on the white finish. $799, great value. If you want the best option under $1,000 for a Strat, it's gotta be the Player II series. Under 500 bucks, it would be the Classic Vibe series. But Player II is where it's at. If you can spend a little bit of extra money going from this new Standard series to Player II, I really recommend that. Here's the HSS as well, and a great finish with that humbucker in bridge position, $829 for the coral red finish. Player II has introduced some unique configurations too, including chambered ash and chambered mahogany. Those are not going to be, to me, the one and done Strats. That's kind of extra if you want to add that to your collection for something unique, but I would steer you away from those in favor of just the tried and true kind of right down the middle options that I just showed you. All right, one of my absolute favorite lines from Fender is Vintera II. These are vintage inspired Strats, and they did an excellent job. 50 Strat is going to have that maple fretboard and a little bit lower output in these vintage pickups. They did an excellent job with these pickups. My preference is actually the 60s, and I love this Olympic white with a true rosewood fretboard. These are made in Mexico at $1149, and these are fantastic sounding pickups. It just really feels the part and plays the part. Sounds incredible. I can't endorse this guitar enough. Vintera II 60 Strat. Vintera II 70s for that large headstock and CBS aesthetic. Available with that rosewood fretboard, or this is probably the one to go for. Check that out. Almost has like Yngwie Malmsteen vibes here. with the vintage white finish, maple fretboard, and large CBS headstock with that bullet truss rod, all quintessential hallmarks of a 70s era Strat. Now, I used to put Vintera II and American Performer head to head, and I used to give an edge to Vintera II, but for a very limited time, the American Performer, which is the entry level into USA Fender, is on sale. Act real quick because this will not last, very short-lived sale, but American Performer is currently, you can save 280 bucks. $11.19 for this Arctic White American Performer rosewood fretboard. The thing to point out here is it's a satin instead of gloss finish on these necks, but a great option here in the American Performer line, and it's currently on sale. And this one's really cool. HSS kind of has a David Gilmour vibe with the black on black and that satin maple fretboard there. This is really interesting if you want a Floyd Rose and you want humbuckers. Look at this, loaded with Seymour Duncan rail humbuckers and a Floyd Rose at a really good price, $13.49, because the other options from Fender for Strats that have Floyd Roses tend to cost a lot more. This is kind of the altogether package, you know, locking nut, Floyd Rose, and Seymour Duncan upgraded humbuckers for $13.49. Dave Murray of Iron Maiden, obviously giving you a great option if you want to play heavier and have the dive bomb ability of that Floyd Rose. Great package here at $13.49. American Professional 2 is going to represent just an all-around winner. If you want something professional grade to play on stage or in the studio for life, you cannot go wrong with American Professional 2. I really dig this Mercury finish, and look at this rosewood fretboard, and it is also on sale for a very limited time. Hopefully you can catch that before it's gone. But you're saving a lot of money right now to buy American Professional 2. There's the rosewood, also available with maple. And you can also see here maple with the HSS configuration for just a little bit more. This guitar really sticks out in my memory. $18.99, it's more expensive. I will disclose it's not made in America at that price you think it would be. It's made in Mexico, but it's got this road-worn kind of relic finish and just feels like an early 60s Strat like Mike McCready's of Pearl Jam. Fantastic playing and sounding Strat. All-around winner here for a vintage-inspired Stratocaster. Ultra Luxe and Ultra 2 we're getting into, these are gonna be more expensive than American Professional 2, and they're gonna have appointments like noiseless pickups, and I'm telling you, the build quality feels fantastic in the hands, and these are, when you feel them, when you play them, they feel like expensive guitars. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the noiseless pickups, so I would personally opt for the American Professional 2 series, but these are beautiful guitars, again, with all the options. A couple artist series here. You got Jeff Beck at $21.49, very popular option. The Eric Clapton, cool things like a 25 dB mid boost and other electronics options. And then this is actually, if you want a Floyd Rose with the top quality, Ultra Luxe Strat with the Floyd Rose and the Fat Strat humbucker and bridge and noiseless in other positions, I think this represents kind of the top of the line for if you want kind of a super Strat from Fender. I think this is pretty dang cool. And Noble Blue is a cool metallic finish. This is gonna be an ebony fretboard in the Ultra 2 series. That makes ebony a choice at this price range, which is something different from the other ones we covered. Otherwise, you can get Ultra 2, of course, in the classic maple configuration with these, again, noiseless single coil pickups. Of course, we got to give a shout out to the legendary SRV Strat, Pau Ferro on this fretboard. So don't always believe that Pau Ferro is necessarily a cheap wood, because it is used here on the Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat. I don't know if I would steer you towards the SRV Strat. It also, keep in mind, has a flipped tremolo, which is kind of unusual in that the tremolo is on the left side instead of the right side. So while I want to give homage to Stevie Ray Vaughan as one of my all-time favorites, I'd probably steer you away from the Strat as a one and done option for a Stratocaster. Now we're getting into one of the best series, in my opinion, of recent years, Vintage 2. Spot-on recreations by year of iconic Strats, but the pickup sound just unreal in this series, and it just feels like the real deal. Actually, we just celebrated the 70th anniversary of the Stratocaster. You can check out this single-ply white guard. It actually has just a 3-way blade switch. This has got to be one of my standout favorites of the Vintage 2 series, the 61 Strat. Similarly, the 65 Strat and that candy apple red finish I just love. Shoreline Gold is pretty cool too. And then larger headstock, 73. These are year-by-year recreations of these vintage legendary Stratocasters. And I actually like this mocha finish if you're gonna go with the 70s. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so those are the models I'm gonna recommend. Now I'm gonna break down my absolute favorites. Let's back up and look at the all-time winners here. If you want a hardtail Strat for $209, this hardtail Strat with 3 single coil pickups in this beautiful Arctic white finish was an absolute standout. If you want one Strat under 500 bucks, to be one and done, classic vibe series, choose between 50s with maple or 60s with the Laurel fretboard. Vintage inspired Strats under 500 bucks, you can't go wrong. Something to just throw out at you from left field, this isn't gonna be a one and done Strat, but the Squier Paranormal Stratosonic in crimson red, keeps coming back to me as one of the coolest guitars I've played in a long time. $398, you know what, just do yourself a favor and pick one up, add it to the collection. All right, best Stratocaster under $1,000, Player II. Straightforward maple here, or choose true rosewood. I love that birch green. That is the one and done for under $1,000 in my opinion. Next, if you want to spend just over $1,000, the Vintera II line, fantastic vintage inspired strats, the 50s with maple, a little bit slighter, lower output in those pickups versus the 60s. I would opt for the 60s between the two of them personally, with the rosewood, a little bit hotter vintage inspired pickups. $1149. Check out this Olympic white. That would have to be my favorite there. On sale for a very limited time. I will point out American Performer. Grab those while you can before they're gone. Between the two, I would probably opt for the Vintera II, but because this is on sale, you're getting an American-made Strat at an incredible price, actually less than Vintera II for a very limited time. My all-around pick, professional grade guitar, Stratocaster to use on stage in the studio, American Professional II. I even prefer that over Ultra and Ultralux. American Professional II, one and done if you want kind of the top all-around pick for an American Fender Strat. American Professional II, I actually really like this mercury finish with rosewood. Of course, you can also get that in maple as well. It might be a little bit expensive considering it's not made in America, but this guitar so felt the part that it almost fooled me into being a custom shop guitar. They nailed this Mike McCready road-worn Strat, and I think you should at least consider it if you like that look and you want an early 60s style Stratocaster. My favorite of the Vintage II line would have to be this Olympic white Vintage II 61. And then I think that 70th anniversary really speaks to me just as a 54 Strat where they've really gone through painstaking lengths to get every detail right. And this might surprise you, but we've arrived at my absolute favorite. Before I tell you that, do me a favor. If you're buying any of this gear, shop using the link, scan the QR code, you can check that out, get free shipping, easy payment plans. It makes buying that new gear easy. And hit subscribe, please, if you haven't, because we're giving away this Gibson Les Paul. You don't want to miss that, and it helps me make these videos on Plain Trade Guitars. Here's my absolute favorite to share with you now. Little drum roll. I keep coming back to this one. It was just incredible. The Vintera II 60 Strat in Olympic white with rosewood fretboard. Checks every box for having a vintage-inspired Strat at a great price, $1149. Also proving you don't have to get the most expensive Strat to have a great Strat for life. This one, $1149. And if it wasn't this one, it would be American Professional II. I like that mercury finish, but there's some great options there too. American Professional II is going to be your best all-around pick if you want an American Strat, hands down. Remember, best under $1,000, Player II. They did an awesome job on that revamp. What do you think of my picks? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Remember to shop new gear using the link or scan this QR code and hit subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching this breakdown. I have the similar breakdowns for the Epiphone Les Paul, Gibson Les Paul, and Fender Telecaster. More to come. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. See you in the next video. I'm John from Plain Trade Guitars. Thanks for watching and keep playing.